Hi guys, it's Dakota. Hope everybody's doing well. It's good to see you. Well, I wasn't here last week. It's been really incredibly busy. We had family come by, we had friends one weekend. My husband and I just both have been really just, I don't know what's been going on, but we've both just been like super busy. Sorry. Um, yeah, so I didn't do anything last weekend. I just didn't have time. And I actually wasn't going to do anything today. And then I thought, well, I think I'm going to go ahead and jump on there real quick. Sorry if this is really bright, but I want to show you my table here in just a second. Um, I wasn't going to do anything today other than just jump on here real quick and say hello and let you know that all was well, that I hadn't been kidnapped, and that I would be doing a video after Samhain, which is actually this coming Sunday. So today is Monday. So on Sunday I will be hosting our Samhain ritual, and so I thought, well, I'll just jump on here, let you know that hey, hi, I'm thinking of you, and I'll see you next week for sure, because I just haven't had time. But what was really funny is, so yesterday I was just busy pulling out everything that, I thought I would need for ritual. And I've been spending a lot of time in the last 2 or 3 months. I have been writing out the ritual, just kind of where I want, the path that I wanted the ritual to take, where I wanted it to go, sort of thing. I have always, my rituals are pretty much very serious, kind of intense. There's an intensity about it. And I think it's because I take my practice and I take my work, especially with the ancestors, because it is part of my tradition. I take that very seriously. And so it's hard for me to, I don't know, do something, without being offensive, doing something like frilly and fun and, that kind of thing, even though it is a time of celebration. So I'm not real sure how, I can't really explain it to you how I feel about that. So, but I didn't want it to be so serious this year. Not serious, just so intense. I didn't want it to be so intense. So it's taken me a while to kind of write it out and figure out which direction I wanted to go with it. Well, I had to make a compromise with myself, and so it is half and half. It's half somewhat in not too intense, but it's about Samhain and the ancestors, and then the other half is sort of fun. Let's just have some fun with it and celebrate and enjoy. So anyway, that's what I was doing yesterday, was just kind of finalizing and working on the working on the sorry, my computer. Just sort of working on, on that. And so I made a to-do list, and on the to-do list was make incense, because I hadn't made my incense yet for ritual. And I always make a Samhain ancestor incense. So I thought, oh, great. You know what I'll do is I'll jump on here, I'll say hello, and I'll start working on my incense. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to be on the computer, I might as well show you the incense. So that's what I'm going to do, with the exception of, I'm actually not going to show you the exact incense that I'm going to make this year. I'm sure that I'll show it to you at a later date, but I just am not going to show it to you. I'm not going to put the ingredients together and all that, just because we're going to be using it, and I like things to hold a little bit of sacredness to them, a little personal power to them before I start to share. However, I am going to share with you recipes that we have used, a recipe that we have used in the past that I've made that everybody seemed to like, and it was really good. And so I'm going to show you that one. But before I do, you know me, I'm going to give you just a little bit of as a squirrel. A squirrel slid down. There's a tree right out there. Well, the woods are right out there. And he jumped off of the limb onto the roof of the cottage, which is tin, and it's rainy out, it's wet. And he started sliding, and he was holding on with his front feet. I could see his back feet hanging, and he's trying to climb back up on the roof. And then he fell. I have a, I don't know what that bush is called. It's got big red berries. It's like a burning bush. It's like it gets these incredible, it turns a really pretty color, but in the winter it gets these beautiful red berries. Really neat. You can't eat them or anything like that. But he's fine. But he he fell right there in that bush. Sorry. Okay, so anyway, yeah, so this is a recipe that I've made in the past. Everybody liked it, and so I thought I would go ahead and share that with you. But I'm going to give you a little bit of history about incense because, believe it or not, some people don't understand what all the different incenses are. We have people all the time that come in and, what's the difference between loose incense and powder incense, that type of thing. So obviously, a loose incense is just herbs, dried herbs. It could be the leaves. It could be the petals of a flower. It could be the stem. It could be the root. It can be a tree bark, some kind of bark. It can be the little flower seed things. It can be anything that you want it to be. It can be a powder. This is just a powder. And it can also be a cone. And some of the powders that I sell at my store, now, I don't know if they're all natural or if they're synthetic. I tend to think it's synthetic just by the look of it. And because you can grind your leaves and stuff, your herbs down to a fine powder, and then that would be natural. But the smell isn't there. And the powders that I have at the store, they are very fragrant. So I don't know, I have a tendency to believe that they most likely are synthetic. But what you do with them, and they're self-igniting. So what that means is you just take the powder and you pour a spoonful of the powder out onto a safe plate, something that you would that would be safe to burn on. Here's my little cast iron pan that I use for anything and everything. And then you just shape the powder into a cone and light the top, and it just lights itself. So there's powder. Then there is resin. This is resin. These are little hard resins. Oh, that's not going to work. If you can see that. They're hard, like little hard pebbles. And what it is it's basically the blood of the tree. You've seen sap. It's sap. So it comes out and it's hard and then it's fragrant. So there's that. There's stick incense. We've all seen these. There's stick incense. And then there is, and on that cone incense, by the way, you don't always have to do that yourself. Sometimes they come in packages that are cones. I don't have any cone incense. I don't tend to use that. There's also, it's a rope incense. I'm not sure what the material of the rope is, but it's twisted, and I think it's called, I'm not sure what it's called, I better not say. But it kind of coils around. I don't know if you've ever seen an incense burner that kind of coils around. You stick it in and it coils around and burns that way. Those are really good too, by the way. But it's made out of like, I don't know, it looks like rope to me. I'm not sure of the material. I've never researched it that far, to be quite honest with you. So that part I can't tell you. But what I will tell you is that I did a little bit of research on incense before I decided to do this. So it's just today, this morning, while I was having my coffee. I really kind of wanted to just see where did incense come from and how did that whole thing start? And so the most interesting thing, and I'm not going to get into this with anybody. So if you plan on leaving a comment, I just am not going to get into it. This is just something that I read. Okay. But there is a little bit of cultural appropriation with incense, just like with your sage and stuff. And here's why. Because, back in the day, well, first of all, we know that the three wise men, they brought frankincense and myrrh, which was a resin. And they brought that as an offering for baby Jesus. But back in ancient China, ancient Egypt, which I know just a little bit more about Egypt than China, I don't know a whole lot about the cultural anything of China, to be quite honest with you. And I know very little about the Egyptian culture and pantheon. But what I do know is that in Egypt, they mummify the bodies when they die, which is fascinating. You should really, if you're not into studying just the Egyptian ways, fascinating. They were highly advanced and ancient aliens. You gotta watch it because they were a very highly advanced culture. And so part of their culture was when someone would die, they mummified them, and the Egyptian priest, would fumigate the area, one, to kind of eliminate the smell, and the other was to cleanse and purify that area of their burial mound, the sacred burial mound. So when we talk about cultural appropriation, we can look at that and go, well, that was a very sacred rite that they did. It was a ritualistic rite that they did using incense. So, so there's a lot of things that fall under that category that we, as I'll just say spiritual practitioners, use and maybe don't even think about. Sage has been a huge thing. And I think because we haven't really had to look any further back maybe than our indigenous, friends. So I'm not really sure. I'm not 100% sure on how far back we've researched that. But I just wanted to throw that out because I did not know that. And I never even thought about that. But when you think about that, there is some cultural appropriation that goes along with the burning of incense. So what that did for me was made me think that, well, guess what? From now on, it's not just, taking the incense and woo and, going around the house or dancing around with it or whatever. But we do use it, right? We use it in everything. We use it in our rituals. We use it in ceremonies. We use it for meditation. We use it for journey work. We use it in our yoga rooms. We use it in anything and everything. We use it for. It helps us sleep, helps us relax. We use it for divination purposes. So we use it for a lot of things today that they did not use it for then. So it's just something to be mindful of. Okay. So again, there wasn't a date that I could go back to. I just know that it was ancient China and ancient Egypt, and I knew a little bit about ancient Egypt in the fumigation thing, but I didn't realize how much of a ceremonial ritual rite, and sacred rite that it was. Okay, so that being said, I'm going to go ahead and show you the incense that I will show you today. And for Samhain slash ancestors, it's not the one that we are going to be using for a rite or for a ritual for Sunday. But I think you'll enjoy it. We like it. So hold on, I'm gonna get ready. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to use is white willow bark. White willow bark. And I'm going to use that as my base. And the reason I'm using the white willow is because one of the things it corresponds with is the burial mounds and therefore death. So for me, that had a heavy ancestor correspondence to it. And also when you use the bark of something, whether it's you can use pine, you could use the willow, you could use a cedar, any of your woods that you feel comfortable using. When you use a bark, it's going to help our incense because this is a dry mixture that we're making. So we're going to need a fire source, which is going to be in the form of a charcoal brick. And you light your brick and you drop your incense on there. The wood helps it burn longer, if that makes sense, because if you're just using dry herbs, it burns very, very quickly and it's very, very smoky, although it's still going to be kind of smoky. All right, so I did not want to use the big chunky pieces of the willow. So what I did was I put it in my trusty little coffee maker here that has solely been consecrated for only grinding herbs and roots and stuff for my magical practice. I got it at the Salvation Army, I think, for $2.99. Never, ever, ever use it for anything. It's not used for cooking, for grinding coffee, for anything, unless I'm using it for witchcraft, for spell work, for my magical practice. I don't use it. Okay, so it's only used for that. So I went ahead and ground it first. And I'm going to just pour it in here so I can get to it. All right, so I'm going to be talking about parts, all right? Normally you see me do a pinch of this and a pinch of that, but because I want the scent to be somewhat even, rather than using a pinch, I am going to do measures this time. So I'm going to use, let's see, I've got all my little things here. Okay, I'm going to use teaspoons. Let me sit that down, put that in my bowl so it doesn't spill. I'm going to be using 1 teaspoon and 1/2 teaspoon. So if I tell you that it's 1 part, I'm going to say 1 part in this particular recipe, 1 part is going to equal 1 teaspoon. I'm only making a small amount because this is not going to be used at our ritual. This is just to show you, but I'm actually going to use this for the rest of the Samhain season until it's done because I don't want to waste it. But yeah, so 1 part is going to, for this recipe, is going to be 1 teaspoon. Now, if you want to make it, if you want to make more and you want to use a tablespoon, then 1 part would be 1 tablespoon. And if I tell you to use 1/2 part in this recipe, 1/2 part is going to be 1/2 teaspoon. But if you're using tablespoons, it would be 1/2 tablespoon. If you're using a cup, 1 cup, 1/2 cup. Okay, so that's a part. All right, so I'm going to use 1 teaspoon, 1 part willow. And I'm just going to put it, that's not very much at all. I'm going to put 2 parts. 2 parts willow. Willow is considered water, element of water, because the burial mounds over in Britain, they're usually by some sort of waterway, whether it's a river, a creek, a bog, a marsh, something like that. So the element is water. Now the reason I ran it through my grinder is because I didn't want, like I told you, I didn't want the big chunks. So now it's still got substance to it, but it's not a powder. I didn't grind it all the way. I want a little bit of substance so that when I add the dry herbs, it will burn longer on the charcoal. All right, so that's my first thing that I'm adding is my bark. And I'm just going to give it a couple of clockwise, which is diasul. It might look counterclockwise to you, but it's clockwise. Spins around the cauldron just to give it some energy to let it know that I'm working with it. All right, the next thing that I'm going to use is I'm going to use eucalyptus. And eucalyptus is also a water element. Now, I'm using eucalyptus for this reason. On some site years ago, I have it in my little recipe box that I have. And this will be, I will tell you this will be used in my incense that I'm making today later for our ritual. And all I had in there was that cool, dark places. I don't know where I got that from, other than when, you know how eucalyptus kind of gives you that cool feeling, So I thought, well, you know, when you're sick, or if you're just trying to open up your sinuses or whatever, you got a headache, and maybe you're in a hot tub and you're just, you know, smelling the eucalyptus. It's sort of dark and cool. So dark and cool reminded me of the burial mounds, and then I went right into the ancestors. So that's why I'm going to use eucalyptus. Now let me see, I was going to just use, I'm using a hefty half part. A half part. So 1/2 teaspoon is what I'm using of eucalyptus. Okay, the next thing I'm going to use is chicory root. Y'all know why. It's a road opener. I am trying to open the doors. I'm trying to open the path. I'm trying to open the road to communication with the ancestors on Samhain. So I am going to use a half part, 1/2 teaspoon. And they're hefty parts. They're hefty. 1/2 part chicory root. And chicory root is air, and again, it's for opening that door. Communication. The next thing I'm going to use is, here it is, lavender, because lavender is soothing, comforting. I want I don't know, it brings about clarity. I want and those are all the things that I want when I go to commune with the ancestors. You know, I want things to be calm. I want there to be an open door, which is a chicory root for communication. I want clarity, and lavender also brings about clarity. And so I'm going to be using, let's see, one big giant hefty mound of lavender. 1 part. It smells good. 1 part lavender. The next thing that I'm going to use is, this is camphor. Don't know if you can see it. I kind of don't want to take it out of this bag because it's all crumbly up in here. I'm using camphor. Yes, camphor. Camphor is good for, not only is camphor good for protection, which, you know, it's always good to have some protection, even though you might you know, you're going to have your protection up when you're doing your ritual and stuff like that. But camphor is really good for awakening, because when you smell this, you're definitely going to wake up. So I'm just going to use, and I am using, it is a, where's the camera? There it is. I'm using a half part, but kind of less than a half part. It's not quite full. I personally don't like a whole lot of camphor in my stuff, but there you go. So it's a half a part, but I am using just a little bit less than half a part. All right, the next thing that I'm using is, I have a cedar stick here, and I'm just going to, I'm not going to even measure it. I'm just going to use the cedar that is in the bottom of this bag. I'm going to put the cedar in there. I think I'm just going to crumble up a few more cedar leaves. And I'm using cedar because it's a form of divination. It's something that you would use for divination. And no, even though the ancestors, it's not really about divination. It opens up that sense that you need. It opens up that third eye. It helps with the clarity and the communication with the ancestors. The last thing that I'm going to use is, I think it's the last thing, but I'm going to use sage. Sage is, as we know, is for protection and helps clear the space. And I want to make sure that everything is clear and cleansed. Helps cleanse my sacred space. So I'm going to use 1 teaspoon. I'm sorry, this is a half teaspoon. So I'm using half a part. You can use however many parts to however many parts you want. This is just what I'm using. Normally, in fact, I think the recipe called for 1 part, but I don't like sage. I don't like the smell of it, and so I don't like to use it. I like other things instead. All right, and then I have my tobacco, and we know that tobacco is for the ancestors, and this is, because this is so big, you know, there's just big pieces in here and everything. I think what I will do for this is I'm just going to, and there's stems, which I don't want to use right now, not for this recipe. So what I'm going to do is I'm just putting in some of the leaves. I'm just going to put some of the leaves. You know, it's tobacco. It's a sacred herb. I'm going to use it for the ancestors in the incense as part of, I guess you could say, offering. But see, I don't want this big stick in there, so I'm just going to put a few of the tobacco leaves in there. I'll show you here in just a second. That's all I'm going to use. And you know, you can add, take away, whatever you need as you feel. Okay, so then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add Ancestor Oil. This is, well, I don't know who makes it. It's called Ancestor Blended Herbal Oil. So it's called Ancestor. I'm going to, now see, that smells like eucalyptus to me. I think I'm going to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The sacred 9. I'm going to use sacred 9. And now all I'm going to do is blend it. I'm working my my pestle in a clockwise motion. Sorry for the clanging, this is a marble bowl. But the inside is rough, So it grinds pretty well. I don't want there to be any like real big, super big chunks in there. So I want to grind it down pretty low, or pretty fine, I mean, pretty low. A few pieces that are still kind of big. That's what it looks like. And it smells kind of earthy. It smells very much like the forest ground. It smells very much like when you go into the woods and the ground is wet, kind of damp. Kind of smells like that. But it does have a oh, that smells so good. That smells really good, you guys. I like it. I kind of like that. Maybe I'll just use this, huh? It's already made. No, because I said I wouldn't. And I have another recipe that I want to try. But I don't know. That smells really good. Okay, let's smell. Yeah, so I mean, I can smell either the eucalyptus. I can smell the eucalyptus. I can smell the camphor, but it's not like, whoop. I can smell just a little bit of the lavender, but it smells so earthy and so, I don't know, musky. That smells really good. I would almost use this. I would have to think about this. There's two other ingredients that I would consider adding to this and grinding this just a little bit finer to make a graveyard dirt. Seriously. That's what it smells like, kind of. It just needs there's a couple more herbs that I know of that I would use. I would use the same exact recipe with the exception of I would add these two other herbs to make a graveyard dirt. Yeah, you see my mind. Now my mind is going like this. I'm like, oh, you know what? Hey, it's going to be Samhain. You need graveyard dirt, right? I'm sorry, I keep smelling it. That's delicious. I hope you try it. I'm not going to burn it in here. Anyway, my charcoal, it's, I have that humidifier on, the dehumidifier, but it's still so damp in here that even though the charcoal is in its tin foil, I'm going to have to find something else to put it in because charcoal absorbs moisture. Remember that. Charcoal absorbs moisture. And I can't get my charcoal to light now. I'm hoping that I'm going to dry it out and hope that it will light. If I can see if I can dry it out. I don't know if anybody has any ideas on how to dry the charcoal. That would be great. Ooh, I hope you try this. It's really good. Call it whatever you will. And like I said, a couple of other ingredients, like two ingredients that just came right into my head. And I was like, ooh, if you add this and this, you've got graveyard dirt. That smells delicious. All right, guys. So I will see you after Samhain, of course, because Samhain is Sunday. And so I will record a video next week. I hope that I will be able to incorporate some of our Samhain activities with you here on the video. That might be fun. All right, so that's it. Have a great week, you guys, and thanks for putting up with my craziness. I will talk to you soon. Love you guys. Bye.